Hey guys, it's Jason with Paul Davis Restoration. In this video, we're going to cover what to expect when you file a claim. So this is geared towards the homeowner more so than the contractor. We're going to outline the most common procedures that'll occur when you file a claim with your insurance company. You know, what are you responsible for and how to get the most coverage from your policy. We're going to explore picking a remediation contractor, dealing with your adjuster, understanding your policy limits, and what to look out for to overall protect yourself and your property. Don't wait for a disaster to happen. Be prepared and educate yourself today. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to file your claim. You're going to call your insurance company and you're going to tell them you need to file a claim, either water damage, fire, you believe you have mold, whatever it may be. You're going to file that claim, and the person on the other end of that phone is going to ask you what's going on. Very important. If you don't know, you don't know. If you don't know where the pipe is leaking, if you don't know what's causing the mold, you just don't know. All right? If you know it's a toilet overflow, then it's a toilet overflow. If you see a broken pipe, you know what it is. You don't. Otherwise, let the insurance company send out a professional to determine what the cause of the loss is. That's our job. All right? One of three things are going to happen when you file your claim. Your insurance company is either going to assign you a preferred vendor, who is a mitigation company. They're going to give you options. They may give you between 2 and 4 mitigation companies to contact yourself, or they're simply going to tell you, okay, hire a mitigation contractor and we'll send an adjuster out or someone will be in touch with you. Either way, there's advantages and disadvantages to all three. All right. So advantages of hiring the vendor, the preferred vendor from your insurance carrier, is 99 out of 100 times they're going to have a personal relationship with the adjuster. We work with these adjusters every day, multiple times a week. We know them, they know us. There's a trust factor here. Pretty much it's a smooth interaction, okay? The other advantage of going through a vendor is pricing. So we're preferred vendors on a number of insurance companies. We are locked in to our price point. Because we're vendors, we're obligated to use certain software packages. We're obligated to go by certain measurements and certain scoping techniques. And we have agreed that in order to be a vendor, that we will offer these reduced prices in lieu of receiving more work. So we're locked in. There's really not much wiggle room on what we can charge. Another thing is you're getting a guarantee. The insurance company is virtually guaranteeing that our work is going to be up to standards. If there's a problem, the insurance company comes back to us and we have to fix it because we're vendors. That's the advantages of going with a vendor. The disadvantages of going with a vendor is also pricing. And what I mean by that is some insurance companies limit the scope of work that we can do. They won't allow us certain leverage to do the job properly or more efficiently. They cut back on the equipment we're allowed to use. They cut back on the time length in which we can use that equipment. They place a lot of unrealistic expectations on us to save money on their end. You know, it's a crap shot. You know, hopefully you get the type of restoration contractor that does the right thing for the right reason, not just for the price point. When we go on jobs, I don't care if I'm a vendor or not. If I'm not a preferred vendor, my bill is the exact same as if I were. We do things to the letter. You know, there's formulas for everything in this industry. If you abide by the formulas, if you do the job properly, there really shouldn't be a price discrepancy. The biggest disadvantage to going with an outside vendor is that they have the ability to overscope jobs, overproduce, over-equip, and just basically do a lot more work that is not necessary to remediate your home. And at the end of the day, you're responsible to pay for what the insurance company doesn't pay for. And we see that more and more nowadays, where these guys will come in and they'll do a ton of extra work, you know, or they give you an example is most insurance companies have a $10,000 cap on mold jobs. Well, they're coming in with a $25,000 or $30,000 estimate on a mold job. Your insurance is only responsible for $10,000. Who's responsible for that other $15,000? You are. And you've signed a work authorization and a form admitting to the fact that you're aware that if there's any coverage that is not being paid for by the insurance company, you're personally responsible for. That could be a major issue. All right. The other disadvantage of an unknown contractor is they're not vetted. We are a corporate office, or our office is a franchise. Our corporate office requires that we do background checks every 12 months on all of our employees. The insurance carriers that we're partnered with require that we do background checks every 12 months on all of our employees. So you know that every person walking in your door has been fully screened, vetted, and background checked. To me, that's important. You know, I don't want someone off the street walking around my kids or, if I don't know who they are, that they're safe to be there. So that's something to think about. Next, you have to understand that your insurance policy is a legally binding contract. Whatever is in that policy is specifically written for one reason, and it's protection. It protects you and your property, and it also protects the insurance company for what they are required to pay you for your property. So, you know, there's certain language that are in these policies that you need to understand. And one of the first things is that almost every policy I've ever read says that you, the homeowner, have a responsibility to mitigate in a timely manner. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you have to go out and suck up all this water, or you have to get your own machinery or tear down materials. But it does mean that you have to be responsible, be available, and grant access to your remediation contractor. If you have a loss that happens Sunday at midnight and you call your insurance company and you report the loss, they assign me your loss at 12:30, I'm on the phone with you by 12:40. And if you tell me, well, my kids are sleeping, or, you know, I have elderly people in the house, or I live in a townhouse and we can't have work done at certain hours, then we'll be there at 9 a.m. the following morning. if you tell me that, well, I have work at 9 a.m., I won't be home until 7 o'clock at night, that could be a problem for your insurance company. If we call you and you say you're away, you're on vacation, well, then you have to find someone to give us access. That's your responsibility as the insured. You have to get us in there and allow us to start doing mitigation. Failure to mitigate could result in denial of your claim. So just remember that, after 72 hours in a warm, wet environment, mold begins to grow. Insurance company can come in and say, well, we're not covering the mold because you didn't mitigate timely. So remember, you have your own responsibilities as a homeowner to get us in your house and to get us, started drying out or mitigating. Now, what do you want to look out for when it comes to picking a restoration contractor? Well, first thing you want to look for is you want certified technicians in your home. And what do I mean by certified? There's an organization, it sets the industry standard for inspection, cleaning, and restoration. And it's called the IICRC. And you can go to iicrc.org and you could click on the Find a Certified Professional tab. And there's a drop-down menu, and you can choose water restoration, fire and smoke remediation, mold remediation, master designations, whatever you want to look for, carpet cleaning, carpet repair, whatever you need. You click the tab that applies to your loss, put in your zip code, and it'll automatically give you every certified technician within your location. If a company tells you they're certified, prove it. Have them show you their certification cards. Go online, look them up. Go to the IICRC, do a search. Make sure that these guys know what they're doing. The difference between a certified tech and an uneducated tech can be huge. There's so many facets in the remediation process. You want the best that you can get. This is your home. You have to live there. It should be safe. You should be secure, and you should get what you pay for. Don't look at these fly-by-night companies. Do your research. Do a Google review. Look up. See what your neighbors are saying. It's your option. Remember that. Things to look for when your mitigation contractor shows up. Well, they should be in lettered commercial vehicles. All right? They shouldn't be driving up in an unmarked van. Their name, their license number should clearly be printed on the outside of the van. Their technicians should be dressed appropriately. They should have logoed shirts on or jackets. They should be brand representatives. So they work for a brand, a certain company. You should know who they're working for. They should be professional looking. They should be courteous. They should be compassionate, knowledgeable. They should always promote a professional appearance and a professional attitude. They should be able to, once they do their initial inspection, the lead technician should be able to sit down with you and explain the process from beginning to end on what your remediation project entails. Now, let's say if it's a water claim, you have a burst or broken pipe. Well, that technician should be able to tell you the category of water, which represents the amount of contamination in that water, the class of water, and class pertains to the evaporative abilities of that particular material. They should be able to explain what has to be removed, what has to be cleaned, what type of equipment was going to come in, what that equipment's going to do, and they should be able to paint an overall picture of the next 72 hours during the process of remediation. If it doesn't make sense, ask. If he's speaking, too technically, tell him to slow down, break it down, explain the process. If he can't explain the process to you, and if he can't tell you why they're doing certain parts of this process, chances are they don't know why they're doing it. They're not the contractor for you. If they get frustrated with your questions, show them the door. It's your home. They're working for you. All right? If you're looking at a fire loss, well, now we want to start getting into contents that are affected, secondary damages from water that puts the fire out, lack of utilities due to the fire, and wet materials is the ability to grow mold. So now we have mold on your fire, water on your fire, soot and smoke damage in your fire. These all need to be addressed. And if your contractor can't go through every step of the process with an explanation of why it has to be done and what the end result is, then he's not qualified to handle your fire job. In a mold job, once again, you don't want if your contractor comes in and tells you, oh my God, this is huge and this is a big mess and this is crazy and you have to do this and you have to do that, send him packing. He's using scare tactics. And you see this more on mold jobs than anything else. Without testing and seeing what your indoor environment is showing compared to your outside, he doesn't know how severe a mold infestation can be. So just because you see something doesn't mean that it's the end all. All right? The main thing in mold remediation is to remove the source. So if they're going to tell you that, oh, well, we could just, put bleach on that and clean it and then paint over it, that's not how you do a mold job. You remove the material, contain it, bag it, get rid of it. Then you clean and sanitize the surrounding materials. All right? The goal is to have all visible mold removed from the premises, clean and sanitize the area, and return the air quality to post-mold air quality. It should be equal to or lower than your outside sampling. And they should be able to explain the process of mold remediation. You should be aware that not everything involves demolition. Most building materials are designed to be dried. Framing gets wet. It can be dried. What's framing? It's wood or it's metal. If it's wood, it's made from a tree. Trees get wet all the time. They can be dried. And they can be dried quite adequately. They can be brought back to like new condition. There's not going to be structural defects. There's not going to be visual defects. You're just drying a piece of wood. Can it be done? Absolutely. Drywall, depending on if there's insulation behind it, what kind of insulation, what category of water it is, drywall can be dried in place. It might need to be removed. If it has to be removed, why does it have to be removed? Can your contractor explain to you why it's being removed? Is it more efficient to remove it and dry the opposite wall behind it. You know, does he have the proper material, the proper equipment to do this kind of drying? They got to be able to explain it. It's got to make sense to you. If they need to break it down into layman's terms, so you walk away saying, these guys know what they're doing. All right? There's some things that can't be dried in place. You know, we always run into someone who asks, what about the framing? You know, the framing has to be removed. You can't rip framing out of a house. Your walls will collapse. Framing can be treated. It can be sanitized. It can be brought back to its original condition. It's got to be explained. It's got to be understood. A big thing for carriers. Now, you're going to hear a lot of this on your from your adjusters is we don't pay for that. And, you know, a good example of that is we use a lot of specialty equipment in this company. We do targeted heat drying. We do infrared moisture detection. We do 24-hour remote monitoring of all of our equipment. We do special containment and air chambers for positive and negative air. These are things that are a little more expensive than traditional drying techniques. Or they're things that the insurance companies don't readily see in their particular software. A lot of times we hear, well, you know, we don't pay for that. Well, show me in the policy where it says you don't pay for that. Because remember, this is a legally binding contract, specifically written with specific terms. So unless your policy states we don't pay for targeted heat drying, you have to pay for targeted heat drying. Now, the caveat here is it effective? Because if I use specialty equipment and I'm now saving your hardwood floors, or I'm restoring your marble bathroom floors back to original without having to tear them out, yeah, I can bill for it. If I'm using specialty equipment to no avail and everything has to be torn out, well, shame on me. I need to know what I could dry. So, you know, there is that. Insurance companies will come in and say, well, we don't pay for PPE. You know, we're not paying for this type of a disinfectant or this type of a disinfectant. We get that often. We use a botanical disinfectant. It's 100% plant-based. Does it cost more than an off-the-shelf disinfectant? Yeah, it does. But it's healthier. It's green. It's safe. It's hospital grade. It's a germicidal disinfectant. Now, have we gotten pushback from that? Absolutely. We don't pay for botanical. Show me in the policy where it states you don't pay for botanical. Because if it doesn't state it, you're paying for it. All right. Long-term damage is another thing that some carriers come up with. That if a loss is older than 14 days, it's not covered. It's considered long-term. And they use this on mold jobs. There is no way to tell how old a mold job is. No industrial hygienist, no biologist, no chemist can come up with a date of birth for mold. So it's an unrealistic statement, and you need an advocate that can stand up for you, and that should be your restoration contractor. They give a lot of not necessary clauses. You know, we don't feel that this particular piece of equipment is necessary. We don't feel detaching the cabinetry is necessary. Well, here's the deal with that. It's not about what's necessary. It's about what you're owed. So if you have hardwood floor that goes under your cabinetry and that hardwood floor is damaged, your policy owes you for replacement of that hardwood floor. Not replacement of it up to the cabinets, replacement of your entire floor. It needs to match if that's in your policy. So that goes back to know what your policy is, know what your limits are. In regards to contents, there's a general rule that if the cost of remediating contents is less than 40% of the replacement, you restore the contents. Well, that's really not up to your contractor to decide. And let me explain why. There's sentimental things that have no monetary value. That's going to be up to you to decide, do you want to keep this, do you want to restore it, or do you want to replace it? We can guide you in the right direction. Ultimately, it's your decision. All right? Very important, your contractor should be on site and attainable at all times. You pick up a phone, he needs to answer that phone. He needs to return your call. He needs to be accountable for his workers and his work. He needs to document his work. Don't listen to these guys that tell you, oh, we don't have to take pictures and we don't need dry logs and we don't need this and we don't need to prove what we're doing. No, you need to prove what you're doing. All right? And the bottom line is, if the insurance company denies it, that contractor is coming after you for that payment. So be cognizant of what your contractor is doing. If you don't see them photographing stuff, you start taking pictures. I know that we submit anywhere from 100 to 200 pictures of every job we do. Everything we remove gets a photograph of it. There's no way any insurance company is coming back to you and stating that that didn't have to come out. We are here to protect you. Your contractor should protect you. Again, the only stupid question is the one that's not asked. Reach out. Ask people who've been through it before. Don't take my word for how good we are. Ask someone who's used us. Again, look at our reviews. Ask your insurance company. Have you worked with these guys? See what your adjusters say. But ultimately, you, the homeowner, the policyholder, you're responsible for getting the right company. So I hope this helps. And I just keep in mind that everything can be fixed. Everything. Every water job can be dried. Fire jobs can be rebuilt. Mold jobs can be remediated. Take your time. Get the right contractor. And follow through until the end of the job. And you'll be happy that you did. I'll see you next time.